Good evening, and thank you all for joining us today. I am Parth Varu, event planner at Microsoft Reactor Bangalore. This session will run over next 16 minutes, including Q&A. The session is being recorded and will be uploaded to our Reactor YouTube channel. I will be sharing few usable links with respect to today's event in the chat section soon. Before we begin, please take a moment to read our code of conduct. We are all here to learn together, so please be respectful of other people's views, understanding of differences, being kind and considerate in the way you engage. The chat will be open throughout and we do encourage you all to participate. Also, please keep your mics muted during the session. I would now like to welcome Dixit, our speaker for today's session. He started his journey with Microsoft in 2015 as a part of IIS team and later moved to Azure in 2016. During his cloud journey, he has worked in various PAAS technologies like Azure App Service, Azure Functions, APIM, Logic apps. Currently, he is a part of Fast Track team helping startups in their cloud journey. But before, as we begin the session, over to Dixit to begin the session.
Thanks, Parth.
Over to you, Dixit. Yeah.
Thank you. Hi everyone. Good evening. My name is Dixit. Right now I'm working as a customer engineer in the Fast Track Azure engineering team. And the day-to-day work that we do is we basically help startups during the cloud journey. That is the one-line description that we do on a day-to-day basis. So my only request is that I will share my screen and we can walk through the topic that we are going to discuss today. So one of the advantage that we have today is that we are about close to 15 or 16 members. So please make it interactive, and whenever you have any doubt, uh, uh, please stop by and ask me any questions you might have it, or probably any doubts around the not with respect to the topic that we are discussing in, or probably any doubts with respect to the PaaS services that you're having. So please feel free to unmute yourself and ask any questions. It might be a silly questions. It always refer to that it might be a silly question, but no question is silly question. So whenever you ask doubts, it will be beneficial for you and also for the wider audience. Let me share my screen.
Yeah, as Dixit shares his screen, everyone, like, chat section is open to ask the questions, and later on we'll have a quick Q&A for that. Hopefully this works, Dixit.
Sure, please.
Yeah.
So Parth, I believe my screen is visible.
Yes, it's visible.
Sure, great. So today we are going to discuss about the networking capabilities, or what are the various networking capabilities in the multi-tenant app services. So moving on. So first of all, there are two kind of offerings in the app service. First is the multi-tenant, which we generally call as a app service, and the other is called the app service environment. So the major difference that we have it, that app service environment typically uh, lies down into the VNet. So for example, if you have created a multi-tenant app service, then you need to make sure that if you have certain business requirement of connecting to other services or making use of the networking capabilities, you need to bring down the VNet into the particular piece. But when we create the app service in an app service environment, then ultimately what you are doing as a customer, that you are creating an app service under the VNet. So under the app service environment, you will have complete control what traffic can go as a part of inflow and what traffic can go as a part of outflow. But in the case of app service, it is a multi-tenant app service, and you will have the public access. Moving on. So what are the various features that is available to us as a part of multi-tenant app services networking features that we can make use of? So in the first slide, we mentioned that there are two kinds of offering in the case of app services. One is the app service or the multi-tenant app service, and one is the app service in an app service environment. So in the case of app service environment, or when we say the app service in a case of app service environment, that is quite costly. And then we got the feedback from lot many customers that if we want to have the same kind of the networking control in a multi-tenant app service, what is the way or what are the other features that we can utilize that without uh, without putting too much cost, we are still able to achieve what we are able to achieve in the app service environments. So that is how we are able to reach the 6 or 7 networking feature of the app service by which we can make use of these features, and we are able to achieve the security thing that we are looking for without putting much cost as we need to adhere in the case of app service environment. So the top or the couple of features which will restrict traffic as a part of as a incoming traffic, the traffic coming to your web app or the app service will be the app assigned address, the access restrictions, the service endpoints, and the private endpoints. So all those features, the upper part of this picture, are the features which will restrict traffic to your web app, or we can say to the app service. And the below part of the pictorial represent the features or the networking capabilities in the case of app service, which will give you the control that if you want to control the traffic which is moving outflow from your app service, then what are the various networking features that we have? So these are the regional VNet, gateway VNet, and the hybrid connections. So I will just pause for a while and uh, any questions from anybody or any doubts till this particular point. So what we have done, we started with the app service and the app service environment. What is the difference, and what are the networking features for the inflow, the traffic coming to your web app, and the traffic going outside from your app. So these are the 3 slides, or these are the summary points that we have covered in these 3 slides. Any doubts or any questions in any of the points? Okay, then I will take it as a no. Moving on. The first is the app assigned address. So as we discussed in the previous slide, that if you want to restrict the incoming traffic that is coming to your app, uh, one of the networking features that you can utilize from the app services is the app assigned address. In this, uh, you will have the, for example, if somebody or probably most of you are working in the Azure, and specifically in the case of Azure App Services, when you create a app services, you will not get the dedicated IP for that particular uh, app service. So if you have the business requirement that you want to have the dedicated IP address for the app service or for the web app that you have created, then you can go for the app assigned address, which will make sure that you have the IP based SSL and you have a dedicated IP for that particular web app or the app service. Because in many of the scenarios, there are some certain business requirement that we need to be whitelist only one specific IP according to your business requirements or as per the compliance. So on those things, this particular thing will come into the picture, that if you're looking for the IP based SSL or you are looking for the dedicated IP address, what is the way we can achieve this particular business requirement by using the networking capabilities of the app service. Moving on to the access restrictions. So in the case of app services, you can probably you will have the feature of allowing certain IPs or denying certain IPs from the internet traffic that is coming to your web app. So if by your requirement you have certain business case that you want to allow certain IPs, or you want to allow certain range of IPs and denying all other things, or the vice versa, probably denying a certain range of IPs and allowing every other IP, then what is the way to achieve in the app services is by the access restrictions. So you can put that particular thing in the networking blade of the app services, that these are the IP range uh, which will be allowed to access the app services. Apart from these IPs, all other IPs which will be making incoming requests to this particular web app will not be allowed. Any doubts for these two points, IP restrictions and the access restrictions?
So Dikshit, I didn't understand the difference actually when you are saying IP restriction and access restriction. So in both the cases, we are restricting few like inbound traffic, right?
Yes,
And
yes.
in both the cases, we are specifying the IP range. Then
No,
what difference is there?
no, not in both the cases. First of all, thanks for asking this question. Not in both the cases we are specifying the IP range. In the first, we are configuring in the first case, in the case of app assigned address, we are assign
Mhm.
a dedicated IP to the app services. So if you want to set up a IP based SSL, or you want a dedicated IP for your web app, then in this particular case we can go with the app assigned address. But in this case, we are not assign a range of IP that you can block from accessing from the internet. But in the case of
Okay, okay, okay. Yeah, got
access
it, got it, got
restrictions,
it.
okay, sure.
So in both the cases, we are specifying the range, but in app assign thing, we are assigning the
Si-
IPs,
Single
and
IP.
in the restriction, okay,
We are.
so we can, mhm.
I'm sorry. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so we can assign an IP whichever we want in case of
Exactly.
app assigned address. So can't we
Yes.
specify the range from which it can pick any of the IP in app assigned address?
No, for that, the access restrictions feature will come into the picture if we want to specify the range.
Okay, okay, yeah, got it.
Sure.
Thanks,
Thank
Dikshit.
you. Any other questions from anybody?
We have a question in the chat section also, Dikshit.
Okay. Uh, so WAF will. So that is what. So as of now, what we are discussing, uh, that if you have the multi-tenant app service without including any other service, what are the ways already present in the app services without incurring higher cost? So obviously this particular thing can be included by including other service which we have referred to as a WAF. So with the WAF, obviously you will be have able to much control that. Obviously the traffic will become first at the WAF, the web application firewall, and then it will go to the app service. So all the restrictions, all the firewall rules you can apply it at the WAF service only, the Azure firewall rule only. But obviously that will cost to higher security. So we have customer from the financial background or from the banks, which will, or let's say certain compliance, that we need to have WAF or we need to have more security. We can't be deployed our solution or the application in a multi-tenant app service. So for those customers, if you are ready for uh, uh, putting extra service in front of the app services, and by putting extra cost, but obviously those costs will have benefits in comparison to the networking features specifically to meant for the app service. I hope you get my point. It's mentioned as RM. I'm not sure what's the name. Okay, sure. Thank you. Guys, any other questions? Okay, sure. Let's move forward. Then the other thing that we have is the hybrid connection. So let's say just understand from this particular perspective. I have an app service, or let's say I have the application deployed in the app service, and due to certain compliance, I have the insurance company, I have the bank, or let's say I have the financial institution. I will not be able to put my database into the cloud infrastructure. I have certain compliance from the RBI, or let's say any compliance thing. I will not be able to put data, my customer data, or my, let's say, specific data, which fall under certain compliance thing. So I want to keep it under my on-premises network. Then what is the way that the application which is deployed as a part of app service will able to connect to that particular DB, uh, which is deployed in your on-premises network. So to achieve this particular functionality, from the app services connect to a DB, or in generic term, uh, app service connects to uh, the on-premises network. What is the way? So to achieve this particular kind of a scenario, we do have the offering in the app services, which is called hybrid connection. So some of the features that we have, that we can have up to 200 hybrid connections for one particular app service, and it can be used with the either in the app service environment or a multi-tenant app service. Any doubts for this particular scenario, why we have the hybrid connection in the case of app services? So we are going from Azure to the on-prem network. It is not a VNet to VNet connectivity. It is from Azure to on-prem connectivity. Guys, any doubts in this particular point?
Hey, Dixit, can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Hybrid connection, since we have sort of limitations here, it's going to add a benefit when we compare that with a private endpoint, because private endpoint also helps us to have a connectivity back to the on-prem, right? Yeah.
Yes. So again, the same thing. So it can be the scenario that one particular business case can be justified by using couple of services. So obviously one thing can be achieved in a multiple way. But what is the benefit of using hybrid, or let's say over the private? I can say that in the case of hybrid, the cost is quite low, and the configuration in setting up the hybrid connection is literally very simple. But in the case of private, uh, if you're exactly looking for that there would be a complete security, then I would prefer private link. But in those case, the ingress and the egress charges will be there.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and and in the case of private link, that will be little, I will not say little, but yes, it will be costly as compared to the hybrid connections.
Okay. So overall, we can see that hybrid connections are quite easy to sort of operations perspective and
Ye-
also cost effective compared to private endpoints. Yeah.
exactly. If we have a, let's say, if I have a web application and I have my DB into the on-premises network, what is the simplest way? The hybrid connection will be the simplest way, and it is the cost effective way.
Yeah, thanks for that. But maybe another one. So let's say if we are a couple of AAC environments with hybrid connections and a couple of them with private endpoint, so is that still make sense to have that both in the same environment? Yeah.
Sorry, can you please come again?
What would be the scenario if both are having in the same environment? That is still make sense? Yeah.
Yes, even that will make sense. So
Okay.
it is the same thing. So I will boil down to let security and cost. If security is the only thing, and that is the topmost priority, you will go for the private link. But if you have, let's say, if you can balance between keeping the security and the cost, hybrid can also work for you.
Okay. Thanks for that.
Sapna has a question. Sapna, please go ahead.
Guys, I'm not able to see the chat window because probably.
Actually, it's I think he has already answered that. How do you
Okay.
choose between a private thing and the hybrid one?
Okay.
So Dixit, please go ahead. Yeah.
No, sure. Please go ahead. Please go ahead. No worries. Guys, any other doubts? Any other questions from anybody? Okay, let's move on to regional versus gateway VNet integration. So when we started with the app services, we have started with the gateway required VNet integrations, and later on we moved to the regional VNet integration. So why we have moved to the regional VNet integration? Because when we work with the gateway required VNet integration, so we are not able to work seamlessly with the private endpoints, with the service endpoints, and even with the gateway required VNet integration at the backend, we are spinning the another gateway, which is obvious. Probably to understand it better, when we spin up when we say we spin up the another gateway, it is the VM that will spin in the cloud infrastructure, in the Azure cloud infrastructure, that will spin up the software rules in that particular instance or the VM, just to understand it in a layman term. But in the case of regional VNet integrations, we have worked on those things that obviously when we spin up the another VM for just for the gateway, it will incur more cost to the customer. So those things have been taken care into the VNet, into the regional VNet, and obviously with the use of service endpoints and with the use of private endpoints in the case of regional VNet integrations, we are able to achieve the security thing without putting the app services in the case of app service environment, which is probably multi-fold costly as compared to the multi-tenant app service. So that is the reasons we came up with the regional VNet integration in comparison to the gateway required VNet integration. So so these are the things that uh, the gateway required VNet integrations initially when we started with the app services. So it worked with the classic VNets. I believe nowadays there is nothing which is called classic. So every VNet is being the ARM VNet, or you can say the by default whatever VNet you are creating, it is for the ARM VNet. But when we have started in the initial days of the app services, we do have the classic VNet. So gateway required VNet integrations work with those kinds of VNet. And obviously the points that we have discussed regarding with the service endpoints and with the private endpoints, and also regarding the the UDRs that we configure while connecting to the on-prem network. So those are the some of the limitations that we have in the case of gateway required VNet integrations. Moving on, what is well in the case of regional VNet integrations, and what we are still working in the case of regional VNet integration, but those things keep on updating, and probably in a you can say uh, in the time to come, those things will be overcome. But those are only you can say the optimization of the existing things. But more or less, whatever the drawbacks that we have in the case of gateway required VNet integrations, we have already overcome those things in the case of regional VNet integrations. So it works well with the service endpoints. So no additional cost of spinning the VM, which will have the gateway thing, and obviously some of the drawbacks, or we can say that it will not be able to work with the classic VNets. Moving on, so regional VNet integrations. So obviously in the so first of all, regional VNet integration will allow you to control the traffic that is coming out from the web app. So by this, you will be able to reach to the on-prem network. You will be able to reach uh, certain services or certain endpoints in your Azure VNet, and you will be able to reach certain Azure services uh, which will be there with the service endpoints and even with the private endpoints. So how to do it, and the other use cases that we are going to discuss in the upcoming slides. But as a 30,000 feet level, these are the benefit that why we have come up with the regional VNet integrations. Again, on the same lines, obviously in the first slide we mentioned about that from the web app we are able to reach to the on-prem, to the Azure VNet, and to the other Azure services, to the service endpoint. On top of that, you can put the NSG onto the VNet, and you will be able to apply the NSG rules in those configurations. So the same kind of more or less the same kind of uh, networking control that we have in the case of app service environment can can be achieved quite easily when we are working with the regional VNet integrations. Any doubts till this particular point?
Hey, Dixit, quick one.
Sure.
So when it's a regional VNet integration, so it is something an option. Are we saying within an app service environment where we can go and probably enable this? We
Not in
need
the
to do something.
not in the case of app service environment, in the case of multi-tenant app service.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Guys, any other doubts from anybody? Okay, let's move then. Again, the routing thing. So that is to the on-prem. Okay, now the service endpoints and the private endpoints. Uh, so both are used to secure the traffic that will be coming to the web app. So what is the difference? Well, in the case of service endpoint, uh, we are still, for example, let's say I have a storage account, or probably I have a VM. So I want to reach that particular service. So I can enable the service endpoint. So at the backend, what it will do, it will able to connect the public endpoint of that particular service, but it will never go through the internet route. So by the service endpoint, you will have the secure backbone connection, and that secure backbone connection will be the Microsoft networking backbone connections. So you will still be able to reach privately over the public IP of that particular Azure service, and it is not over the internet. But in the case of private endpoint, the difference is that you will be able to reach that particular Azure service privately by utilizing the private IP of that particular Azure service. And the networking capabilities, or the networking option in the case of private endpoint, is the all the networking or all the traffic that is reaching, that you are using to reach to that particular service, will be over the private IP from your existing VNet. But in the case of service endpoint, uh, you are not traversing through the internet, but over the Microsoft networking backbone network. So first of all, I will stop it there. I'm sure there will be doubts. Any doubts? What is the difference between service endpoints and the private endpoints? The other doubts are you can say, uh, this is easy to configure, and cost wise that is on the other side of the thing. But obviously those are theirs. So for certain services, service endpoints are there. For certain services, private endpoints are there. But what is the basic core of service endpoint and what is the basic core of private endpoint? If that is understandable, then probably it is easy to understand to uh, why we have configured this and why we are using those. So I will stop it there. And any doubts from anybody?
Actually, Dikshit, can you please summarize this again? I actually did not get it completely.
Sure, no worries. So let's say in both the cases, uh, I need to connect to Azure storage. in both the case, service endpoint and with the private endpoint. Just as an example. Now, in the case of service endpoint, I will reach to the Azure storage by the public endpoint of Azure storage, and whatever traffic and whatever way the traffic will flow to the Azure storage will not route to the internet, but it will be in the Microsoft networking backbone infrastructure. So what I'm saying, let's say as a user, or to be or in a very layman term, let's say I'm making a request to you. I'm one service and you are another service. When I'm making a request as a one service to another service, that particular traffic route will not go over the internet in both the cases, neither in the service endpoint, neither in the private endpoint. But in the case of service endpoint, the traffic will not going through the internet, but it is going through the Microsoft networking infrastructure that we have in the cloud. And in the case of private endpoint, whatever communication we are making from one service to the another, that particular traffic is totally on the private IP, which is coming from the VNet. So if you have observed it, so there is a sign of VNet in both the cases, either in the service and either in the private endpoint. But in the case of private endpoint, the traffic relation, or you can say the communication traffic the uh, that is made between two endpoints is over the IP taken from the VNet. So let's say there is obviously the VNet is a range of IPs, right? And VNet can be divided into smaller networks, which is called subnet. So that particular communication is being made over the private IP, which is taken from the VNet itself. But in the case of service endpoint, the communication is not happening on the private IP, which is taken from the VNet. Yes, it is not routing over the internet, but it is going over the Microsoft networking infrastructure. Now tell me if you still have any doubts. Guys, any doubts or any questions? Okay, then move forward. So again, the same thing. What we are doing in this particular case, that we are uh, so in this pictorial representation, what we are doing, that from the on-prem or from your let's say from your own data center, if you want to connect to the Azure VNet, what is the way? Obviously, that is by, in this particular picture we are showing by the express routes, and you are controlling the incoming traffic by the private link, and then by the regional VNet integrations, we are connecting to the on-prem by the express routes. So the incoming traffic is being controlled by the private link, and by the outgoing path we are doing by the regional VNet integrations. So there are certain configuration that how we can achieve that particular thing is by uh, one of the important settings in the app setting that you can do is by the VNet route all. So those are the settings that you can do, and you will be able to achieve that configuration. On the same lines, let's say I have two applications, the front end and the back end, and I want to secure the back end. One of the fundamental reason is that one of the fundamental ask from my business is to the technical team is, I want the same security, but I want it at low cost. So if cost is not in picture, then probably there can be multiple ways we can achieve this particular functionality, that the front end will only able to make a call to the backend, and backend is having no access to the internet world. So whatever traffic is coming from the front end will be able to reach to the backend, and nobody from the internet or from the public zone will able to reach out to the backend directly. As I mentioned again, on the same lines, if cost is not in the picture, there can be multiple ways to achieve this particular functionality. But if cost is the if cost is on the table, and you do have deployed those solution as a app services, then what is the way that you can do it uh, with the app services, by keeping that uh, the the backend will not be able to talk to anybody apart from the front end. So these are the this is one of the uh, technique that we can use, that by using the multi-tier app services, we can enable the private endpoints, and by on the front end we can put the region VNet integration for controlling the traffic outflow, and on the back end we can put the private endpoint, and the backend app will only be able to access the application, or let's say will able to access the traffic only from the front end. And even I have written the architectural documentation for these, and these are available in the public documentation. So I have written these two architectures, the multi-tier app with the private endpoints, and with the multi-tier app with the service endpoints. So these are available in the public documentations. So you can go through, and uh, all the details have been mentioned step by step, that how to uh, have the backend secure from the front end, and when cost is also the factor, and we are specifically using the app services. No, I will stop there, and will uh, welcome any questions you might have it.
I think it's a question from my end. Yeah, so we are more like so we're more like providing sort of isolation for the backend and exposing to front end. So how do you see that backend getting connected back to internet? Like we are, let's say, if everything is going through infrastructure as code, for example, then how it's going to probably end up connecting to the DevOps sort of services.
So you are saying that how to connect the backend to the internet.
Oh, yeah, like if I want to push any code, like an API which sitting on a DevOps, so I want to push that code to the backend, which doesn't have a connectivity to the internet. So will it sort of like we need to use some sort of backend channel to do that? Mm.
No, that will come into the same thing. So let's say in this particular picture also, so I have the, you can say, uh, the DevOps integration or the Azure pipelines integrated with the API app, the backend app.
Yep.
So that private link does not restrict that particular thing. So it is the deployment, and obviously those things which so when we say uh, private endpoint or private link, that does not mean that if you allow certain IPs, in this particular case, let's say Azure pipelines, or you're setting the Azure DevOps pipeline, you will not be able to deploy the code. Obviously the pipeline will always be there, and you will able to achieve whatever you are by doing the CI/CD pipeline. But this is more of the, let's say, the public access to the backend, that you want that the backend will not be internet reachable, but you will be able to allow traffic only from the front end. So
Okay, I got that. So we are more like talking about the control plane, not the data plane where the data will
exactly,
traffic and connect back. Yeah. Okay.
exactly, because even in this case we are allowing traffic from the front end. So obviously we are doing some configuration that the front end traffic will be able to reach to the backend.
Yeah, like it doesn't traverse the control plane. Yeah.
Hmm. Guys, any other doubts?
Oh yeah, maybe another one. Like we end up using two different subnets. The reason is behind to secure from the sort of enable the security restrictions. We don't want two different uh, things sitting on the same subnet, so probably we end up exposing a bit more. That is something related to the security sort of restrictions.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Okay, then I move forward. Certain details. So, guys, just give me 1 minute. Are you able to see my screen?
Yeah, it's visible.
Okay, so whatever we are discussing regarding the private endpoints, how we can have the multi-tier app service with the private endpoints. So I have written this particular architecture. It is mentioned in detail what is the flow, what is the components, and what are the alternative way if cost is not coming into the picture, and what is the other benefits. So this is the public documentation available. You can also go through after this particular thing, but this whole thing we have I have written this particular thing also, and even on the same lines we have also written multi-tier app services with the service endpoints also. So on the same lines we have this as uh, how to achieve the same kind of a scenario using the service endpoints as we are doing in the case of private endpoints. Okay, so moving on, same thing. So this is the same scenario that we have here. We have with the private endpoints, and here we are discussing about the service endpoints. The same scenario. The backend app will not be able to reach over the internet, and only the traffic coming from the front end will able to reach the backend. So as of now, what is not supported, but as I told you earlier in the starting of the session, that uh, these are the features that we are already working on. So probably will be there, or probably will be uh, in a couple of months or in a couple of weeks. But as of now, these are the things that you need to be sure, while that if this particular thing that you're looking for, then obviously the app service environments or the other offerings you need to have this at this particular point of time. But over the time, we have already started working on this, and we make sure that these things will come into uh, uh, the the regional VNet integration offerings as a part of regional VNet offering. Yes, guys, that is all from my side. So open to questions and any doubts you are having, or not with respect to this particular topic. If you have any doubts with respect to any PAAS services, leaving about the AML part, I'm happy to answer those.
Guys, you can even unmute your mics and ask the questions.
Dikshit, I have a question, but I don't think it's related to this.
No
So,
worries.
for example, if you say you have multi-cluster environment, like you have a cluster in Azure and you have another cluster in, let's say, AWS.
Hmm.
So, how does the communication work in this multi-cloud scenario?
So when you say cluster, so what is the offering that you are using in AWS and Azure?
So you have two applications running on different clusters, but we need to access one application from, like, so we have a different, let's say, build cycle, and it's split into, let's say, build, run, and deploy. and I have a cluster which is created in Azure for building purpose, where the developer is developing the code and all. And then I need the details into the cluster which is set up in AWS, which I will be using for, let's say, execution. So, how will the clusters in different clouds communicate with each other?
So that is over the REST API call, the simple HTTP call, right? So for example, let's not overcomplicate. Just having the basic thing. I have a cluster in AWS. Let let's not use the word cluster also. I have an application in AWS and I have an application in Azure. Now my requirement is that something, or Azure people say I need something from Azure's AWS side. AWS developer said I need something from the Azure side. So
Mm-hmm.
if you have not put any security of you, let's say let's the WAF or uh, uh, in the AWS terms VPC, you have not put the application under the VPC, or in Azure terminology, you have not put the application under the VNet. So over the HTTP REST API call, you will be able to retrieve the detail that you're looking for.
What if the app is in the VPC in case of AWS?
Then let's say if the app is under the VPC, then on the AWS side, you will export. Obviously, you will have something that is making you to connect to that particular application under the VPC. So what I meant by that, for example, obviously under the VPC, uh, you will not be able to reach the application under the VPC directly. So there will be
Mm-hmm.
some AWS offering that you have put in front of that. That is why you will be able to reach. Until and unless there is no way that you will be able to reach the application deployed under the VPC directly, for sure. So there will be certain service in front of it by which you will be able to reach. So you are making a REST API call or the HTTP call over to that particular service. I hope you are getting my point.
Yeah, I
Or
understood.
or or either way, or the other way would be you can go with the express routes also, but that will be too costly
Mm-hmm.
if bandwidth is the case in your requirement. But if you're looking for only, let's say, a certain kind of JSON response or certain kind of a XML response, then REST API will work. No issues for that, because we do have customer leveraging both the cloud, and they are making the REST API call over either over the AWS or either over the Azure.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thanks, Dixit.
Guys, any other question or doubts?
Just to add on top of that, probably it might be a sort of whitelisting required a certain endpoint. What's the source and target? So if
Yes,
the
obviously.
target is, yeah. So if the target
Yes,
is trying to stop, so we just need to make sure we need to access the traffic from the other end. Yeah.
obviously.
Any more questions? Or shall we call for a wrap up?
Maybe another one. Sorry, too many from my end. Uh, so let's say it's not just on specific apps, since we are more like trying to across the uh, pass related things. So how do you say probably how should the integration should be really designed or configured more, not just specific to app services? Um, let's say we have a lot of more data services also, which are like not just app services. We have a lot of data services. How do you see that pass should be really configured on specific to the integration perspective? Any just a sort of any quick idea on? Yeah.
Well, when we say integration services, though, probably I'm sure you must have looked at the Azure Functions and the Logic app. So those will be the two best services as far as the integration service part is concerned. Because in the case of Logic app, we have 300 plus connectors by which we can do the integrations either internally, when we say internally to the Azure sites, or even externally. And when we talked about Azure Functions, we have close to about 30 or 40 uh, uh, you can say integration feature in terms of triggers and the output bindings by which we can do the integrations. So as far as the integration part is concerned, I can say that Azure Functions and the Logic App will be the best choice to do that.
Okay. Good. Thanks for that. Yeah.
So Parth, I believe we are good to go if no further questions.
Yeah. Before we call for a wrap up, I am using few suitable links for you all. I think there is this is popping up. Yes. Okay, so I'll be sharing few suitable links which can give you the further learning. Yeah. So the first link is the LinkedIn group, that is Microsoft Reactor LinkedIn group link. The second one is the meetup page link, the Microsoft Reactor Bengaluru's meetup page link, where you can find uh, our sessions, like we have multiple sessions going on every day. And the third one is the Microsoft Reactor YouTube channel. Once the session is completed online, the later the session is published on YouTube. And the fourth one is today's Learn module link, which can help you all for your further learning. Yes. Any more questions? Final call to ask the questions.
Parth, I believe we are good to go.
I think Sangeeta has a question.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, it's thanks,
Okay.
Sangeeta. Thanks for joining.
Okay. So thank you, Dixit, for the session, and thank you all for joining us today. Please do share your feedback about today's session. Also, feel free to use the Learn module link shared in the chat section. This will give you access to the additional resources and take your learning further. Also, please visit our Microsoft Reactor Bengaluru meetup page for more upcoming sessions. Thank you all and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, Parth. Thanks, everyone. Thank
Thank you,
you.
Dixit.
Thank you for asking questions. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, Dixit. Bye.
Thanks, guys.